And we're back with episode 18 of Dawg Football Weekly. It's your host, Reed, with your co-host,
Russ.
And there's no guest on today. Today's just kind of we just decided last minute to do this podcast, but some big news in the college football, really sports world in general today about Jalen Carter and, his 2 arrest warrants in Athens. Obviously, really bad timing for the warrants as they went out while he's in Indianapolis at the Combine. But, Russ, I just want to get your thoughts on it right away.
I'm obviously nobody expected this. Besides, of course, the people that were covering this up some way, somehow. It kind of shines a bad light on Georgia's program with all the the secrets and stuff, but at the end of the day, Jalen Carter isn't on Georgia football anymore. And as bad as the situation is, he's going to the NFL. He's not on the team anymore. So
I think my initial reaction when we got going and I heard about this morning, this is tragic. It was a tragic accident. 2 young lives were lost. 2 more were injured. So when the whole thing came out on January, it was 15th. On January 15th, when all of this came out, I was devastated. I didn't really know what happened. I didn't understand. And now you have all this about racing. And people, some people have really come after Jalen Carter today on Twitter. I've seen a lot of stuff like, he should go to jail. He's part of the reason why they're dead. And I just think that's kind of an unfair kind of light shined on him. I don't think he deserves that kind of hate right now. It's just tragic. It's tragic to see, Jalen Carter. I can't imagine what he feels like. I don't know what he feels like. I'm not going to speak on what he feels like because I don't know. But I do think that Jalen Carter made a mistake, but everybody makes mistakes, but I just think it's just tragic what happened.
Yeah,
But at the same time, the people that are really coming after Jalen Carter are the ones who are really defending Brandon Miller out there right now, and that's something that I'd like to, I've seen comparisons of Jalen Carter to Brandon Miller, and I just think that's kind of a unfair comparison because Brandon Miller, he brought the gun. Brandon Miller, like that guy's intent was Darius Miles. His intent was murder. Jalen Carter wasn't trying to hurt Devin Willock or Chandler LaCroix. That wasn't their intent. That wasn't their goal. They were intoxicated. It's a slippery slope to kind of talk about because we really don't know all the facts, and there could be more to come out later on. But just my initial reaction is that, Jalen Carter's in the wrong, but I feel for the guy, because he's coming up on one of the biggest weeks of his life. He's coming up on getting drafted to the NFL, and then this happens, and this, is kind of gonna wreck his stock a little bit. He's still gonna go to the NFL, in my opinion, for anybody wondering.
And he's still going to be a great player.
But I just feel, it's just tragic. And I can't imagine how Coach Smart feels or any of that because the light shined on the program is just, it's not good, and it doesn't look good for the program. Russ, what do you got to say about that?
And I think the weird thing is, to me, when you just lost somebody in a car accident, you got guys like Jamon Dumas-Johnson racing through Atlanta, gets obviously stopped because we wouldn't know about it if he didn't. But I love the guy on the field, and I think I like him as just a person, but I don't know what he's doing,
There's Todd McShay came out earlier in the season about stuff, saying he had character issues. This isn't a character issue. I don't believe it's a character issue. It just came out last week. He was in just one of the brightest lights in college football, he paid for a walk-on's meals. I mean, he paid for his food, and, there's such wide ends of the spectrum here. I truly believe he's the best player on the defensive side of the ball, him and Will Anderson in this class. But I think he's so much more than just a good football player. I really do think he is a good person. And I don't know what his reasons were. There's reports about him telling conflicting stories to the police. There's reports about him leaving the scene of the crime, or the accident, rather, not crime. But I just don't know what to say. I mean, I'm kind of lost for words. This is something that hasn't really sat right with me, this accident, because I didn't understand. And, reading all this today just makes me sick. I saw something today, Russ, the Ford Expedition that LaCroix and Willett were riding in along with Warren McClendon and the other staffer. It was going 104 miles an hour.
Yeah.
104 miles an hour down Cedar Shoals Road in Athens. And for those of you who have never been to Athens or aren't really familiar with the roads, those roads are tight. There's curves, and it's a college town, and there's people on the road, and I saw stuff about them just passing cars in the median lane, in the turning lane rather, and on the other side of the road completely. And it's crazy. I don't know what to say. There's so much coming out.
Well, it's weird. All this stuff always comes out before the draft. We saw it with Jake Fromm and the girlfriend text or whatever, and just it ruined his draft stock. But I mean, obviously he wasn't, didn't turn out to be the guy he was supposed to be in the NFL. But we always see stuff like this going on, and I think it's probably going to hurt his draft stock a bit. But I think this guy is still a first-round pick.
We will know in the next week where his stock falls to, because he's got to get all this legal stuff resolved first. And that's the main issue right now, and that should be his main goal, is to get his legal situation resolved. And the NFL can wait for him, really. But if Brandon Miller can deliver a gun to a teammate and then his teammate kill a mother, and then Brandon Miller's draft stock is fine, Brandon Miller's still going to be a top 3 pick. Brandon Miller's still the best player in college basketball, and he's a great basketball player. But that's what's sickening for me, is that, I'm not saying the University of Alabama only cares about winning. That's not what I'm saying here. But they're not doing a very good job of making it look like that's not the case.
Yeah.
And I'm not here to bash Alabama. I'm not here to bash Alabama fans, because, they're backing up their player. They're backing up, but I mean, no suspension. They're handling it internally, and then you see him running out and getting patted down.
Yeah. And
the coach claims he doesn't know about it. Well, they've played 10 games since the shooting, and apparently this pat down has been going on all season. So you're telling me nobody has gone up to Nate Oates and said, "Hey, they're patting him down." So, if he's just fine, it's really hard for me to believe he's just finding out about it. And I've lost respect for Nate Oates. I think, that's sad, because I think he's one of the best basketball minds in the college game right now. But, I mean, just the way he's handled this, the words he's used. And I know he may feel different, but just your words are so powerful. And, he has the biggest voice of that program. He speaks to the media daily. And for him to just come out and say, it's not a big deal, wrong place, wrong time, when a life was lost, and now a child is motherless, that just doesn't sit well with me.
Well, I saw, the pat down. I saw where somebody, I don't remember who it was, but they said it was just like you're being patted down for takeoff, like you're cleared for takeoff.
That's what Nate Oates said.
Yeah, that's what he said. And that just doesn't sit right with me, man. They're not doing that for that reason. Everybody else knows that.
It's sickening, because it kind of, and this is just my take, I don't know what the reason behind it is, but when I first saw this video, I said, they're making fun of this girl. the woman that lost her life. They're making fun of her, and they're young kids, but they're adults. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't. And it's kind of like, well, okay, they only care about winning right now. They don't care. They're number 2, number 1. And they've been back and forth all season long. They're a team that could go to the Final Four. But it's almost like nobody cares anymore just because this has come out. And I don't know if you can ever really overcome this situation as a basketball program with this light always being shined on you. I don't even know which word to say. It's difficult. And it's weird how this has all came out in the past week. But I do think there are two very different situations between Brandon Miller and Jalen Carter. Obviously, Jalen Carter has an arrest warrant, and Brandon Miller has nothing.
Yeah.
But I just think that, I'm going to be one to admit that Jalen Carter is in the wrong here, that Jalen Carter messed up. And I'm not going to be one of those people that said he did nothing like Brandon. I've seen stuff about Brandon Miller. Oh, he's just returning property. Oh, he had no idea. And that's hard for me to believe. But just for him, I'll admit Jalen Carter's in the wrong, but I still feel bad for the man.
Yeah, and I think it's crazy the stuff that you can do as a famous person, Handing a gun to somebody so that he can kill a lady and get away with it is unbelievable, because if it was me or you, we're in jail.
Or this is the one I thought about today. Imagine if it was a non-football player, non-Division I athlete, just a regular college student, or just a regular person rather, racing, and this came out about them. They'd be hated. They'd be this.
Their whole life
trashed.
would be ruined.
Life's ruined. And I think it's a serious problem, and I don't know how they should handle this, but, I mean, what's going to stop this from happening in the future? It's tragic.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I can't imagine what Devin Willock's family feels like today, what Chandler LaCroix's family feels like today, what Warren McClendon's family feels like today, what the other staffers' family feels like today. I don't know. It's how can you prevent stuff like this from happening in the future? What's going to be the difference maker? Because right now, what the NCAA is saying, what the universities, well, Jalen Carter's not at the University of Georgia anymore, so he can't be handled there. But in the Brandon Miller situation, what the University of Alabama is saying, they're okay with it.
Yeah,
it's okay. And that's not the right thing to do, first off, but that just makes your university look bad. And I just want to say this sitting all on Nate Oates at Alabama. Either it's on their athletic director, it's on their president. It's on way more people than just him, because they could have shut him down even if Nate Oates didn't want to, or the president could have, but they've continued to let him play basketball, even be a student at Alabama, which that's just mind-boggling to me. That's outrageous to me.
Yeah, well, on a lighter note, let's talk about the NFL draft a little bit and the Bulldogs and who you think has, who's going to perform in the combine, who you think is going to be the guys that are taken early.
I think Michael Mayer is a great talent at tight end. I think he'll be the best tight end in this class, personally. But he's not an explosive athlete. He's nothing like the athlete Darnell Washington is.
It's no Brock Bowers.
Here's my hot take. Darnell Washington runs a 40, 4.6s, maybe breaks 4.6, runs like a 4.58, 4.59. Darnell Washington's taken in the top 25 picks of this draft. Definitely first round with a good combine.
I could see that, yeah.
Because he's a freak. Another guy who I can see really climbing the board, Kenny McIntosh. He had a great Senior Bowl. He's a guy, great speed, great hands out of the backfield. I could see him definitely, climbing some draft boards. And, Nolan Smith. What do you think, Russ?
I think a guy you left out is Keely Ringo. I mean,
Completely forgot. I think he's got that 4.3 speed. 4.3.
I mean, if he runs a 4.3, he is in my mind definitely a first round pick. He's got. I mean, his size is just tremendous. I mean, you get a guy like that in the NFL. I mean, you just have to take a chance on him, no matter who you are and what you need. You have to take that guy.
Anthony Richardson climbed some draft boards this week too. I'm
just not big on Anthony Richardson.
I'm not big on him, but the talent's there, the legs are there. He did not perform in college, but he's going to perform at the combine. He's got great speed, great arm talent, and he's an important thing to remember is that number one, Bryce Young, who was allegedly 6 foot tall, got measured at 5'10" yesterday, and he's not throwing. C.J. Stroud's not throwing. But Levis and Anthony Richardson are throwing, and I think it's going to make a little bit of a difference. I still think Bryce is your first pick, and the Bears are here's another question for you, Russ. What do you think the Bears are going to do with that first pick?
The Bears, in my mind, the first pick is Will Anderson for them. You just got rid of Roquan Smith in your linebacker, type position, and you need some rushers. And I think for sure Will Anderson's the guy. Obviously, Jalen Carter, we might see him in that conversation still, maybe not, probably not. But if he's there, it's possible they may take him. But I think Will Anderson's the pick.
I think the Chicago Bears trade Justin Fields.
Oh.
I think they get a first-round pick, a third-round pick,
he's still on his rookie
and a
deal,
sixth-round pick. They trade Justin Fields, they draft Bryce Young, and they start to rebuild. They rebuild around Bryce Young. There's a lot of
you can't rebuild against Justin Fields or with Justin Fields.
Bryce Young, to me, I'm not saying that's what they should do. That's just what I think is going to end up happening. But they're going to go. The Bears need a lot of pieces, so I think they got to trade one or the other to get some picks to rebuild this franchise, because some of these teams like the Jets, who else rebuilt really well in the draft last year? The Jets, they got Sauce,
Garrett Wilson,
Jermaine Johnson. I mean, the Seahawks, Tariq Woolen. There's going to be plenty of guys in this class that are going to go past the first round. I think the Bears need to kind of rebuild this defense, especially in this draft class, and they can do that by trading away Justin Fields for around 3 picks.
Yeah, I think the Bears have a big opportunity in this draft, and honestly, I could see them, after the first pick, whoever they take, I could see them trading up in the first round again somehow, some way, and taking some more guys because, they really need some help.
Here's another scenario for you. Bears trade the first pick, drop to 4, they trade with Indy. Bears get Jalen Carter at 4. Now, that's if he, gets through all this right now. They get Jalen Carter at 4. They get another pick. And they just got to rebuild that defense, and they're a playoff team.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, folks, that's going to be it for today's episode of Dawg Football Weekly. We hope you enjoy.